Good evening. Welcome to The Light is Here. It's wonderful to see each of you here tonight, and I'd like you to know that you are the light of the world. Thank you for sharing your light with us this evening. I'd like to open us up with a blessing for our service tonight, so if you would turn within. Knowing that this is a night of light, that it is the shining presence of Spirit, creating the world in which we live in, creating the cosmos, holding it in its hands, and lighting it with its life. I'm grateful to know that I am one with it, that it created me in a moment of love, and that it created me as a unique expression of itself. And I am so happy to know that that is true for each person here, each person in the city, state, nation, and the planet. That each is a wonderful expression of the divine, each here for a unique purpose, loved for who they are, special in every way. So I speak a word of blessing on this evening, knowing that it brings us light in our hearts, a lightness of spirit, and a sharing of love amongst us. So I bless this time, knowing it is perfect, that it is a healing time, a peaceful time. And so I am grateful for this, and just let it be, and so it is. Now is the time for our conscious giving, and I would say a blessing. We know at this time of the year it is a time of giving and receiving, knowing that those are the way the universe works. It is an energetic giving and receiving, that this cycle flows throughout the universe. And that as we participate in it, we are blessed. And in giving, we are a blessing. So I'm grateful for knowing that this is the way it works. And invite us to say together, and so it is.
world waits for a miracle. The heart longs for a little bit of hope. Oh come, Emmanuel. A child prays for peace on earth, and she's calling out from a sea of hurt. Oh come, Emmanuel. And can you hear the angels sing? Glory to the light of the world, and glory to the light of the world is here. The drought breaks with the tears of a mother. A baby's cry is the sound of love. Come down, Emmanuel. He is a song for the suffering. He is Messiah, the Prince of Peace. He has come, Emmanuel. And can you hear the angels sing? Glory to the light of the world, and glory to the light of the world. For all who wait, for all who hunger, for all who pray, for all who wonder, behold your King, behold Messiah, Emmanuel, Emmanuel. And glory to the light of the world, glory to the light of the world, oh, glory to the light of the world. The world waits for a miracle. The heart longs for a little bit of hope. Oh come, Emmanuel.
Good evening. I'm going to talk about the promise of the light. Just as a reminder, the definition of light is that it's a natural agent that stimulates sight and makes things visible. And the definition of dark is that it's devoid or potentially devoid of light, not receiving, not transmitting. And I would like to share, just for a moment, a brief poem by Wendell Berry. He says, "To go into the dark with a light is to know the light. To know the dark, go dark, go without sight, and find the dark too, blooms and sings, and is traveled with dark feet and dark wings." So sometimes we are in the dark, and we want to talk tonight about the coming of the light. Historically, light has been associated with divinity or with godliness in almost every culture and civilization. While darkness invoked fear and anxiety, light offered hope and protection in the ancient world. Hence, in every culture, you will find the duality of light and dark, personifying God and evil, or more specifically perhaps, order and chaos, respectively. Teal Swan says, "No matter how hard you try, you cannot get rid of darkness because it does not exist. It is nothing but the absence of light. In order to affect the darkness, you must do something with light, because the light is the one thing that actually exists." In the first microsecond of the Big Bang, photons formed, and there was light. The Bible says, "And God said, 'Let there be light,' and there was light." According to the Quran, God said, "Be," and everything came into being. We depend on light. The emanations of the sun provide the energy by which all living things exist. Without light, either direct or secondary, all life would cease. The presence of light, the amount of light, the certainty that light will continue is basic to our life. In primitive times, when the days grew shorter, the air colder, when it seemed like the sun was leaving, people became anxious. What can we do to make the sun come back? Fires, celebrations, prayers, dances were tried, and behold, the light did return. We no longer go through these rituals as a society, and yet just 3 days ago, on Thursday at 11:28 a.m., the world reversed its tilt, and in the Northern Hemisphere, we have 6 more minutes of light today than we did yesterday, and we will have 6 more minutes of light tomorrow than we did today. The continuation of the world is affirmed. It's opposite in the Southern Hemisphere. We may no longer believe that our chants and songs convince the sun to return, but we certainly celebrate the fact that it does so. We also speak of the light of knowledge, where lack of understanding is replaced by information and experience, so that understanding can grow. According to Buddhism, all beings are imbued with a spark of inner divine light. The Jewish mystics use similar words when they speak of the inner spark, or the spark of God. The Quran, referring to man, talks about the little candle flame burning in a niche in the wall of God's temple. Almost inevitably, a spiritual search becomes a search for divine or sacred light. By cultivating our inner core, we search for this light in ourselves as well as in the divine. In metaphysical terms, light is a symbol of intelligence. Metaphysical Bible Dictionary says, darkness, on the other hand, is the failure to understand that settles upon the soul in times of great trial. Ernest Holmes, talking about light, as a kind of prophecy, says, a new light is coming into the world. We are on the borderland of a new experience. The veil between spirit and matter is very thin. The invisible passes through visibility, through our faith in it. A new science, a new religion, and a new philosophy is being rapidly developed. This is in line with the evolution of the great presence, and nothing can hinder this progress. Happy are we if we see these things. He also said, We believe in every church and in all forms of worship. He's talking about science of mind. Above all, we certainly believe in God. Because truth is infinite, it must be continuously unfolding in the consciousness of man, and no one will ever have a complete understanding of truth. A complete understanding of truth would be to become God. We know that some light will be given as we use that which we have, and we repudiate any belief that says all of truth has been given. The way it's a sequential revelation of God. The world knows more now, in both scientific and spiritual terms, than it used to. And the world will know more in the future than we know now. Evolution is not only physical, it is intellectual and spiritual too. On a daily basis, the light grows. And finally, we have roots in Christianity. And the basic Christian prophecy about the light is this, from Isaiah chapter 9. The people that walked in darkness have seen a great light. They that dwelt in the land of shadows and the shadow of death, upon them hath the light shined. For unto us a child is born, unto us a son is given, and the government will be upon his shoulder. And his name shall be called Wonderful, Counselor, the Mighty God, the Everlasting Father, the Prince of Peace. Of the increase of his government and peace there shall be no end, upon the throne of David and upon his kingdom, to order it, and to establish it with judgment and with justice, from henceforth forevermore. The zeal of the Lord of hosts will perform this. This foretold light, whether it be a child, a person, the Christ consciousness, or the light within each of us, gave the Jews something to hold on to during their time of darkness, of exile from the land they had been promised, and from the slavery in which they existed. And yet, as we look around us, there is still darkness. But our enlightenment is partial. We still yearn for a greater light. As the power of the sun provides for the life of all things on earth, we yearn for a spiritual life that fills and sustains our spirit. Light is a good thing. Without it, we stumble, fall, and may lose our way. In ways both physical and metaphorical, we wait, ready to celebrate the coming of the light.
Come and celebrate a new day. Celebrate the beauty of the earth. Come and look at life in a new way. Celebrate the wonder of rebirth. Shine and see a brand new morning. Arise, shine, we've made it through the night. Arise, shine, a brand new day is dawning. Come celebrate the light. Arise, shine and see a brand new morning. Arise, shine, we've made it through the night. Arise, shine, a brand new day is dawning. Come celebrate the light. the light. Come celebrate the light.
Well, good evening, everybody. Happy holidays and Merry Christmas. I'm reading from the Gospel of John, chapter 1. Speaking of Jesus, in him was life, and that life was the light of all humanity. The light shines in the darkness, and the darkness has not overcome it. The true light that gives light to everyone was coming into the world. He was in the world, and though the world was made through him, the world did not recognize him. The light, the Word, became flesh and made his dwelling among us. The light had arrived that had been promised from ancient times, and we have seen his glory. As Reverend Betty mentioned, all the traditions, spiritual traditions, have talked about light and darkness. And probably from the very beginning of time, humanity at least, sitting around a campfire was talking about the mystery of light and darkness. This past week, I read some in the Gospel of John, some in the Gospel of Thomas, and some early Gnostic writings focused on Jesus and the light. And I learned some new things, some interesting ideas. Jesus is the one that said, "I am the light of the world," which was a very controversial thing for him to say. Now, Jesus didn't just roam through the countryside using sound bites. Things like, well, I am the door, I am the good shepherd, I am the water of life, and I am the light of the world. But any statement he made in the context of the life he was living, based on the surroundings and what was happening in that situation. And the light statement that he made when he said, "I am the light of the world," he made during a feast day, or really a feast week. It was called the Great Feast Time, and it lasted 7 days, and it was the Feast of the Tabernacles. And so it was a week long, and it became more and more party-like as time went on. So by the last day, they were having a big party. And they would light large lamps, almost bonfire-like at night, and they would sing and dance and talk together. And it spoke to them not only of a physical light, but a spiritual light. And it had reference to the Messiah that would someday come and that would bring light to the people. And so it was a very popular feast day. And so it was a powerful image on the last day for Jesus to stand up with all of those lights burning at night and shouting out so people could hear clearly. And he said, "I am the light of the world." It had to be a shocking statement to the people around. And then he said, "Follow me, and I will give you the light of life." And so it's a shocking proclamation. By the end of the 2nd and beginning of the 3rd century, in Gnostic writings, we know that light had become a symbol of Christianity. And reading some of those early writings this week, this was a time of great alchemy. It was a time of magic. It was a time of casting spells and even drinking potions and bringing healing and miracles to people, especially in the 3rd century. And there were certain people at that time that were Christians who had been trained in what they called mysticism, and they were called light walkers, likely from the writings of John, when John talked about walk in the light as he's in the light, and you would have miraculous powers if you did so. And so it was believed in order to perform spiritual alchemy, in order to perform miracles, healings, signs, and wonders, that an individual had to be initiated. And there were certain requirements they would have to meet. And they would have to take at least 2 strong stands in 2 particular areas. And I want to mention those 2 areas and then close. In the first area that was a requirement for spiritual alchemy, the first was the idea of living in the eternal present moment. And we would describe it as living in the now moment, living in the now, or the now. It's the power of now. But it was more than that, because it wasn't simply the past or the present or even this moment, but it was the eternal part that maybe you've experienced at times in prayer or meditation, when all time stops. And so these miracle workers were known because, and they were spoken of as being in the light, because they were able to go into that type of state and be in that moment. In the 3rd century, they used the sun, the physical sun, as an example of that. And they said the greatest alchemy would be performed at noonday. That wasn't literally noonday, but it was a symbol, because they believed that at noon the sun was directly overhead, and anything before noon they would consider the past. Anything after noon they would consider the future. And so it was especially essential that they center themselves in this now moment, but even more than the now moment, in this eternal moment. And the Gnostic Christians called it exactly that. So they believed that they would create with light out of the here and now. And Jesus spoke of that again and again. He said the kingdom of God is now. The kingdom of God, and the words he used had reference to the eternal moment. And when he talked about the kingdom of God, he was speaking about the ruling domain. And all of you have access to that kingdom domain. You could think of it, and they discussed it this way, you could think of it as if you have a throne that you could sit upon. And when you sit on that throne, you're entering into a special time that's really above the dimension of time. And it's almost a period and a place of stillness and quiet. And so these people believe that's how we and others would come into direct contact with what they called the light of creation. And so all of life is here and now. And the question might be, why would we choose to spend our time in the past? Why would we choose to spend so much time thinking about the future when this is the moment of power? This moment. You can see a clock, and if the clock has a second hand, you can watch the hand slowly tick from one number to another. And what they're describing is when that second hand begins to move, but it's not quite moved yet, and it's in the center of those 2 numbers. And it's almost as if you could hold your breath. And in that moment, the greatest creations occur. And in that moment, all the light of the universe was said to come and actually shine through that individual. So it's a beautiful teaching. And so why would we choose not to spend at least some of our devotion in that place? And the answer is because we've been so well trained. We've been trained to think about the past and to think about the future, and often not find that special place within. Jesus said the kingdom of heaven is now. He said the kingdom of heaven is within you. He said the kingdom of heaven is the place of creation. He said that moment is the only moment you'll really find happiness. He said that's the only moment where you can truly be blessed. And it was called a moment of light. And so if you can imagine yourself coming mentally, emotionally to that throne, setting, getting quiet, and considering what it is you want to bring into your life, and operating from that very still and quiet place. Because awareness is not an on and off switch as much as it is a dimmer switch. So Jesus encouraged us to pump up the volume, so to speak. He encouraged us to set the intention, give our attention to the intention, and as we do that, tremendous power flows through us that's far beyond personality and far beyond just the physical. Now, maybe you would wonder, well, how could I do that? How could I actually be a light walker like was described then? How could I perform so-called miracles? And so I thought about the answer and I made a list. And on my list, it simply says nothing. Because the secret is to do nothing. The secret is stillness, silence, quietness. And that's where we find the greatest power there is. And the Gnostics were talking about things very much like that. Some of you may have seen a movie called Inception, Leonardo DiCaprio. And I've seen that movie a few times. First time I didn't really know what was happening, but then a few times you begin to get the idea. But that movie talks about a dream world and the world of reality and how those can become entangled. And so in the movie, they talked about having a totem to distinguish the dream world from the world of reality so you could tell where you really were. And you and I can do the same thing. You and I can have a totem that will tell us, are we on the throne operating above time, or are we immersed in time, living without very much power at all? A friend of mine gave me this stone, and it's a rainbow stone. She gave it to me this past week. And that's a great totem. And so if I keep this in my pocket, if I pull it out, I'm reminded of what awareness really means. I'm reminded of the light that's available to me when I'm still. You could use prayer beads. You could use, in the movie, they used a top, and one person would spin the top. You want it to be something unusual, something odd, but something that can remind you to center yourself in the light. And so there were two requirements. The first one, living in this eternal now moment, coming into that space. And the second grows out of that one, and simply stated, it's love. And you might expect Jesus and Christianity and all the other religions to talk about love, but it's not the love that we're accustomed to. It's much higher, much deeper, because it's not I love you because. It's I love you because that's what I am. I love because I am love. At one point in Christianity, Jesus said, I give you a new commandment. The old commandment was love your neighbor. The old commandment was love those who are kind to you. The old commandment was love your family. The new commandment was love everybody. Love everyone, even those who would perhaps consider themselves your enemy. Now, I see some of you, and some of you I don't know, but some of you I do. And I can tell you that there's some people here that I like a lot. There's some people here that I respect. There's some people here that I appreciate. There's some people here that I admire. But all of those are dealing with feelings. And there are different levels of feelings. But the kind of love Jesus was talking about didn't have very much to do with feelings at all. It was a totally different kind of love. It was the kind of love that would be there when there was no reason to be there. It didn't need a catalyst. It just was. And regardless of how everything changes about that individual, the love is not diminished in any way whatsoever. As I thought about it, I thought I might call it silo love. I grew up on a farm, and on the farm we had silos, and the silo was full of corn. And if a mischievous boy, not that I would be such, but if a mischievous boy decided he would take his shotgun out and shoot the silo a few times, what would come out? Corn. Or if you take an orange and cut a little hole in the top and squeeze it, what comes out? Orange juice. And that's because that's what it's full of. And so with these two ideas, when life comes along and shakes you a bit, when life comes along and squeezes you a bit, what comes out? And this ancient teaching says what comes out if you're in the light is love. Love comes out regardless of what's happening. And so it's not I love you because, but it's I love you. And the Greek word he used was agape. And it means I love you regardless. There's no reason. It's just there. And so that kind of love is real. It's especially real if you can bring yourself and center yourself in the eternal moment. Because when you're there, you love. And love comes from you. The wisdom teaching says love is like this. Love is patient. Love is kind. You see how it's not dealing so much with feeling, but it's dealing with how you treat other people. Love is not rude. Love is not easily angered. Love keeps no record of wrong. Love protects always. Always. And so Jesus said, if you're in the light, love everything and love everyone. And then he said, but if you're not loving everyone, then you're still walking in the darkness. If you're rejecting life as it is today, he said, you're still walking in the darkness. Because his teaching was that once we're in the light, we love everything and we love everyone, and we create from that special centered moment. And that's what they call the creative light. And so be in that eternal moment more often. And love everyone. And maybe even harder, love everything that happens. And so it is.
Dear Savior's birth, long lay the world in sin and error pining, till he appeared and the soul felt its worth. A thrill of hope, the weary world rejoices, for yonder breaks a new and glorious morn. Fall on your knees, oh, hear Christ was born. Oh, night divine, oh, night divine, truly taught us to love one another. His law is love, and His gospel is peace. Chains shall He break, for the slave is our brother, and in His name all oppression shall cease. Sweet hymns of joy in grateful chorus raise we, let all within us praise His holy name. Christ is the Lord, their name forever praise we. Noel, Noel, oh night divine, oh night divine, oh night
Good evening, everyone. Happy holidays. Merry Christmas. We're so blessed by your presence here tonight. Thank you. So as Betty said, in the beginning, there was God. God was all that there was. And then He said, let there be light. And the darkness was gone in the presence of that light, in the presence of God. God and light are synonymous. Each of us was created by God. We are divine emanations of God, created by God in God's image and likeness. So that right where we are, within us is God. Within us is that light. I've often said, whether it was in a message or in the middle of a prayer, that God is an energy with no circumference, but points of center everywhere. You are those points of center. You are points of light. The light is already here. You are the light. Unity Minister Reverend Ed Townley says, metaphysically, what we celebrate each Christmas is the birth of Christ awareness. What Jesus brought to us was a spark of new light, new possibility, a light that shines through the darkness of human confusion and illuminates the spiritual truth of who we are. And it doesn't just happen every Christmas. It happened once. Every Christmas is a new birth, a new opportunity for each of us to give birth to more of the light. So within you is a spark of the divine. It's called your Christ consciousness. Now, Christmas represents the birth of your awareness that the Christ consciousness has expressed itself as you in human form. The Christ is the light and the love of God within you, within each and every single one of you. It is the creative power of God seeking to express itself through you. It is therefore as eternal as God. It cannot be born. What can be born, however, is your awareness of your true Christ nature. And what can be and is reborn every Christmas is your personal surrender. Your personal surrender to allowing more of that light, more of that Christ consciousness to it be expressed through and as you. The light is already here. You are the light. Now you are a point of light in the mind of God. Whether you've been on the planet for 1 day or 100,000 days. You are the light of the world, not just you or just you, but all of you. You are the light of the world, whether you are on top of the world or whether you are in the depths of despair. It doesn't matter. The miracle is the light, that space and place of God that is within you and that you can never be separate from. That light can illuminate even the darkest of spaces. The light is already here. You are the light. Matthew 5:15 says, "You are the light of the world. A city set on a hill cannot be hidden, nor does anyone light a lamp and put it under a basket, but on the lampstand, and it gives light to all who are in the house. Let your light shine before men in such a way that they may see your good works and glorify your Father who is in heaven." Don't let anyone put a damper on your light. Don't let anyone cover up your understanding of the mighty power of God that is within you. A city that is set on a hill cannot be hid. It announces its presence from miles and miles away. When you know that this creative power is within you, when you really know it beyond a shadow of a doubt, then you have a light that enables you to be able to see and to affirm the presence of all kinds of good, which may not be discernible to the ordinary mind. But to the mind that knows the truth and stands firmly grounded in that truth, that the light of God, the Christ consciousness, is within you, knows and can discern. The light is already here. You are the light. To hide your light under a bushel means simply that you've hidden your talents, your gifts, and your abilities, and you're not using them in any way that supports yourself or supports anyone else. The Bible verse says that no one lights a lamp and then puts it under a basket. So why would we want to do that? Shine your light. The parable suggests that a person could likewise announce his spiritual presence with peace and poise, goodwill and power. The spirit of man is the candle of the Lord. The spirit of man and women is the candle of the Lord. And its light reveals what God or the power of life is doing in each of your individual spheres of existence. It's individual. Everyone brings something different. Everyone uses that light. Everyone shines that light in their own unique and individualized way. And every light is important, or you wouldn't even be here. You are the light. The light is already here. Think for a moment about what happens when you light one candle from another candle. We're going to be doing this in just a moment. One flame is passed from one candle to the other. And this is a metaphor for when you share the light that is within you with another person. A holy moment happens. A moment of recognizing the light that is within you and recognizing the light that is within the other person and vice versa. It's this magical moment when the two flames come together for just this very brief moment, and when those two flames actually join, the flame becomes brighter, and you can see it and you can feel it. This is what happens when we share our light, that light that is within us. It's when two hearts open and they share unconditional love, the love that Bill was talking about. When they share that love with one another, when they share a respect of one another. It's when there's a recognition of the Christ consciousness, that spark of the divine within everything and everyone. There is no exceptions. No exceptions. You can share that light with everybody. And if we did, it would be a much different world that we would be living in. The light is already here. You are the light. Mary Manning Morrissey says, "We celebrate Christmas at the darkest time of the year, knowing there is a light within us that transcends any darkness. This Christmas season, let's give ourselves a gift by being who we were created to be, spiritual beings now, just as we were before we took human form, and just as we will continue to be for all eternity. Allowing the love of God to fill our hearts, we will shine the light of love brightly for all to see. The light is already here. You are the light."
All is well, all is well. Angels and men rejoice, for tonight darkness fell into the dawn of love's light. Sing alle, sing alleluia. All is well, all is well. Let there be peace on earth. Christ's love is come in our hearts, so we may love each other. Sing alle, sing alleluia. All is well, all is well. Lift up your voice and sing. Born is now God within. Born is the light within us. Sing alleluia, sing alleluia. All is well. Born is now God within. Born is the light within us. Sing alleluia, sing alleluia.
Under your seats are some candles. Someone will come to the outside edges of the rows and light the person's candle on the farthest end. And then please share that light, share the light metaphorically that is within you to the person next to you. Cindy will just play the music, and when we have all the candles lit, we will sing.
Silent night, holy night, all is calm, all is bright, round yon virgin mother and child. Holy infant, so tender and mild, sleep in heavenly peace, sleep in heavenly peace. Silent night, holy night, shepherds quake at the sight, glory stream from heaven above. Heavenly hosts sing hallelujah. Christ the Savior is born. Christ the Savior is born. Joy to the world, the Lord is come. Let earth receive her King. Let every
And at this moment, if you can grab a hand to the person next to you and keep standing. And at this moment, in this moment, right here, right now, we close our outer eyes and we turn within. And within, what we feel is the light, the presence of spirit that goes by so many different names. One of unconditional love, one of pure peace and joy. And this power and this creation is everywhere present in the entire universe, in every now moment, everywhere, always available, as I know that I am one with this unconditional love, this one light, this power, this co-creation. I know this to be the very truth of everyone here, not only in this room, if you know it or not, but it is you, the light, the presence, the God within you. So I am so grateful for this evening of powerful words, of powerful understanding, of truth, that who we are is the light of God, Christ consciousness in every moment, always. And it is a choice of truth, light, and abundance. And together we claim it, we know it in the depths of our heart, and together we say, and so it is. Thank you. Amen.